When you were growing up, did you ever have a lemonade stand or see kids like on the corner selling lemonade?
I never did. I was always interested in them because I used to be really big into Charlie Brown. And Charlie Brown and Lucy, I think it was, the little girl with all the black hair, not Peppermint. Yeah, it was Lucy. I think she gave, no, she didn't have a lemonade stand. She gave like 5 cent advice. That's kind of interesting. Wow. She was an early entrepreneur charging 5 cents for psychiatric help.
That's very interesting. At a young age, she was giving advice. Do you think they were too young to start a business?
I don't think you're ever too young to start making money.
Ah, interesting. Well, let's talk about that. This is Mikel-Claire.
And this is Trey.
And we are the couple of entrepreneurs. We're here to share with you our journey of successes and setbacks as we enter the world of entrepreneurship now that we no longer have 9 to 5s due to the new normal of the world and the pandemic.
Join us as we race the clock to start earning money, gain consistency, and overcome self-doubts and uncertainty as we search for our voices and obtain personal and financial growth.
So I think you should start your own advice-giving stand.
I'd charge a whole lot more than 5 cents, I could tell you that much.
Well, we have a 10-year-old son. Do you think it's too early or he's too young to start learning about entrepreneurship?
Not at all. If you can figure out a way to make a buck quick, why not? I remember as a little kid, kids were very entrepreneurial. It was different back then because they were only selling like erasers and pencils and candy, but they still had a hustler state of mind.
So you think maybe like at 1 or 2 is not too young?
Ooh, well, I figure I would just assume you'd have to learn how to walk first. Yeah. Take your first steps first and then go chase after $1.
Do you think they're actually ready, or how do you know when they're ready to start learning about it?
That's really a good question. I don't know. I don't know if kids just kind of wake up with like the Richie Rich gene and they're like, hey, I'm ready to start getting these gold bricks. I wonder what would be a good clue. Ooh, I know. How about something like Monopoly and see if they get frustrated to the point that they're going to flip a table, like which happens in most Monopoly games, or are they going to always want to be the banker? And that's usually a really good way of telling. Somebody who always wants to be the banker is probably got a bit of an entrepreneurial spirit. Well, what kind of clues do you think you'd find?
If we're going in terms of the Monopoly example that you gave, I think maybe somebody who buys up all the property more so than just the banker is the person that I'd want to be in my entrepreneurial corner.
Ooh, or that kid that always got to call you off to the side and be like, hey, man, I got this deal for you. I'm going to give you these 2 railroads for boardwalk. That kid right there might be an entrepreneur.
I agree. Absolutely. That's who you're looking for. I think that there's some things that you should do. I think it's never really too early to start. I hope they would know their ABCs and 1, 2, 3s and possibly how to read first. I think that there's good tips and tricks and things that you can do to help them establish that way of thinking in a way.
Oh, really?
You got to help them figure out how to set effective goals, right?
Right.
How to have attainable goals, measurable goals, those types of things so that they kind of have that groundwork and that foundation to start with. And I know we'll probably go more in depth with this also, but teaching your kids financial literacy, right? So the value of $1, I think, makes it more so that they know what they're working for and what it means to actually earn that dollar and have that dollar.
Right.
I think letting them solve their own problems is another good one so that they can become like independent thinkers. And we've already talked about the extent that being an entrepreneur is about solving problems daily. So letting them solve their own problems, I need to work on that now that I'm talking about that, is a good one too.
We all do.
Yeah, I need to work on that. Also, let's see, like fostering their creativity. They got to become creative and know how to brainstorm and that type of thing. I think that's just a good way to start. And one thing actually that we're doing with our son is teaching them how to code.
Right.
I think that kind of helps with the problem solving and figuring things out as well. What are your thoughts about all that?
Oh, no, this is all good stuff. Well, let me first say this. This subject matter is no means a platform of judging parents and how they raise their kids, because I personally think that I could be doing a whole lot more to be introducing entrepreneurship to our son, more so than what I'm doing right now. So I'm not going to sit here and wag my finger to any parent that hasn't chosen to go down that particular route. But all of the examples that you've given are really good. I think it's really important first to know if that's even something that is even appealing to a kid, because you don't have to be an entrepreneur in order to find success and happiness in life. I think pushing it too much can be detrimental. Maybe your kid just wants to be a painter and that's all they want to do is just paint. So, you have to kind of like facilitate those particular needs. But I do think you would be doing yourself and your kid a disservice to at least not, see if it's possible that they might have an interest in it. Because I think the sooner you facilitate it or introduce them to the world of creating and building businesses on your own terms, I think the faster it can seem like this is just what I do instead of something that you're struggling to obtain. You got the right mindset at an early age.
I agree that it is the mindset, and I have not taught our son as much about it as I should have either. But I think it's because I'm still learning, and I don't think I completely have that mindset myself yet. But the interesting thing is it could be something that we kind of learn together. And I think that would be pretty cool. But if they have interest, I still think they should know about it because of the great opportunities and the great freedoms that can come with it. But it's not something I would force on him, but I definitely want him to at least know the advantages so that, like with everything, you can kind of weigh the pros and cons of it all.
Do you think there's ever a point where it's too late, like they're already set in their ways and they'll just be unwilling to change towards an entrepreneurial mindset?
I think like with everything, the later you start something, the more difficult it may be to be flexible and to adjust. And I always laugh when I use a saying because it just makes me think of you. But when you think of the whole teaching an old dog new tricks, it can be a little bit more difficult. Can they learn the tricks? Absolutely. If you give them some extra doggy treats and a pat on their head. But I mean, it takes more time and it takes a little more prodding in order for them to change their mindset. So I don't think it's too late, but I think it definitely takes a lot more effort.
Who do you think that responsibility of teaching entrepreneurship falls on? Do you think that this is something that the schools should really pick up on? There's already a college track that's pretty standard for most schools, and there's a vocational track in a lot of schools. And if you go to a magnet school, there's tracks for the arts and sciences. But you don't really hear too much about entrepreneurship as a path to go on outside of high school. How do you feel about that?
I think the school system should definitely pick it up as something to add to their curriculum. I think it's important for kids to have every option that's available to them, and not everyone is going to be a doctor or a pharmacist or what have you, but they sure can sell those doctors information and products and software, and they can create things that can solve problems for people.
Right.
And that's what you're supposed to do as an entrepreneur. You kind of solve problems for people, or you figure out ideas that makes people's lives better. And I think school systems would want that. And not every parent, let's be honest, not every parent has that mindset.
Right.
So why not give the kids at least an opportunity to learn about it, if nothing else?
Right.
Do you think that it's the school system's job to teach those things, or do you think it's parents' responsibility?
I think it should be more of a societal responsibility as far as schools are concerned, because entrepreneurship is a mindset. And just because you go to a vocational school and learn how to become a mechanic or a metal worker or whatever it is that's involved in those vocational schools, you can incorporate entrepreneurship into that. Even if you wanted to go on a college track, you can incorporate entrepreneurship into that. And the same with all of the other magnet schools. I mean, there's not too many spaces in this world, in this life that we live, that you cannot incorporate entrepreneurship. But most people just don't know. They don't know how to take what's given, create something beautiful out of it, and then get paid off of that. It's kind of sad that in a lot of schools, kids don't really even know how to pay their taxes. This seems to me, in my personal opinion, that a lot of these schools are made to teach people how to become workers or teach people how to work for somebody else. And that's just my own personal opinion, but it would be nice to see a different spin. Instead of learning how to work for someone, how about we teach you how to work for yourself, how to create, how to build, bring other people. Entrepreneurship can be the answer to a lot of problems, especially when it comes to community building. So you would think that would be as standard as mathematics, right?
You would think so, but there's a lot of stuff that's not taught in the school system that we could write books about, but I'm not going to get into that right now. You had mentioned the school system, like teaching your kids about taxes and things like that. But what about the responsibility or teaching your kids or talking to your kids about money and financial literacy? Do you think that that's our responsibility as parents, which I do, and I can get into in a little bit, or do you think that it's the school system's responsibility? I remember, before you start, I'm sorry. I remember when I was in high school, the only class that I took, and I think I chose it, it wasn't required, was an accounting class. I remember nothing about it because I'm just not a numbers person. But other than that, nothing other than math, basic math was taught well, it wasn't basic, but nothing other than math was taught, and that one accounting class. So that's like a two-part question. Like, whose responsibility is it to teach our kids about money? And did you ever have any of those things when you were growing up?
I believe the bigger responsibility to teach our kids about money falls on the parents. At the end of the day, it's your kid, and if you want your kid to be equipped with all of the necessary tools in order to make their decisions a lot easier, then go ahead and just open that door of entrepreneurship to them and get the ball rolling with it. But I am a really big believer in our communities taking responsibility for teaching kids the proper tools and skill sets as well, because most people don't even know where to begin when it comes to teaching entrepreneurship or respect for money management, and working for yourself and things of that nature. So I think it would be a little foolish to just assume that all parents are able to teach this skill set. But if you are able to teach that skill set, why wouldn't you? But and in the case for some of those parents that don't have that particular skill set, then yeah, it should be the responsibility of the community, your school that you go to, in order to give you the proper tools.
So growing up, did you have those things in your school system? Did you have any type of financial literacy classes in your schools?
No, not in my high school. Most of my financial education came from my parents, and my parents, who were head and shoulders above a lot of people regarding financial awareness and responsibility. What they knew was still not a tremendous amount considering what is available today. And I definitely applaud my parents for at least opening the door to the possibilities. Here's something that I find very interesting, is that there are some classes that I had put the most importance on when I was a kid, thinking that they were the end all be all classes, and I've very rarely used any of those skills that I learned in that. Like you were talking about your accounting class. I remember, not that there's anything wrong with studying biology. I took a lot of AP classes. I remember taking AP biology and AP chemistry, and I was in a AP English class. And those classes, although they were challenging, I don't really remember using a lot of those in my day-to-day interactions. There's not a whole lot of things that I fall back to AP biology and I'm like, yeah, that helped me get through today, or same with chemistry, or even like the higher maths like calculus. But there is one class that stands out the most in high school that has probably affected me on a daily level more so than any other class, and I totally didn't appreciate it, and it was typing. One of those classes that you absolutely would ignore. It's not required. It's like an elective. Nobody really pushes you into it. It was me and like maybe 3 other guys in a room full of girls, and there wasn't even a whole lot of minorities in that class either as well. But here I am. I use that skill almost every single day. I think a class in entrepreneurship is the equivalent of kind of like that typing class. It's something that, if you are interested in, you will be doing for the rest of your life, and you don't have to be in some advanced placement class in order to like reap the benefits and the rewards of taking that class.
If you do teach your children about entrepreneurship, or it's taught in school, either or, and they create a concept or an idea and they come up with this business, how involved do you think you should be as a parent in their business?
That's a really good one. That's a difficult question. I think that's really going to depend on your child. Some kids are going to need you to take those first 20 steps, first 100 steps before they have the confidence in themselves to keep it going. And then there's other kids that just want you to get out the way and let them experiment and play and make mistakes. You just gotta see how your kid responds to that new environment of learning. I don't even know if that's even the right answer. It seems like the kind of like canned response. How do you feel about that?
I do agree. It depends on the child and it depends on the parent, because some parents have time They have the know-how, like you said, the skill set in order to kind of guide their child on that path. Some children are born entrepreneurs. They have ideas. They're outgoing and confident in what they're doing. But that doesn't mean that those are the only children that can succeed or that can use direction or help to get to whatever their goal or their vision is. You know your child, hopefully. If you do, you know how much involvement from you that they need in order to support their growth.
How do you feel regarding making a mistake that could be irreversible? I think all parents have some kind of baseline fear from time to time of saying or doing something that's going to scar their kids to a point that they just can't be repaired again. Is there anything that we as parents or community teachers or teachers in general should be concerned about regarding teaching this? You know, even though it's an amazing thing, learning entrepreneurship, could there be like a dark side, or is there something that we're missing?
I think the same principles hold true for teaching entrepreneurship as teaching in general. I don't think anything is irreversible. Of course, there are some things that are easier taught to some children than others. There are some subjects that are more interesting to other children than others. But I don't think that it's something that you could make a mistake that would just traumatize them forever into never going into entrepreneurship. There's no instruction booklet to teaching in general. Well, there are instruction booklets to teaching in general, but not to teaching entrepreneurship. So I think you just do the best you can, but just know that nothing that you do is going to be irreversible, because it can be retaught or taught a different way, or personalized to the individual child. So.
Well, I think that's a pretty good place to kind of like stick a pin in this. I know I didn't have the dramatic way that I kind of go into sticking pins, but that's because I'm kind of like stuck in my own thought process, you know, regarding all of this. As I said earlier, this is by no means a judgment of your parenting regarding teaching entrepreneurship. It's definitely raised some questions within myself concerning, am I doing enough? Or maybe I should pull the reins back and let our son kind of like find his own path. These are all like great little nuggets to have in our head in order to figure out the best ways of raising our children. If you had any questions, concerns, or just interesting things that have happened in your life regarding teaching entrepreneurship to your kid, or even tips and tricks, you know, by all means, if you're on a platform that has a comment section, by all means, please let us know how you feel about that. And we will, to our best ability, try and address those comments and concerns. Thank you so much. You have been listening to The Couple of Entrepreneurs. Please hit that subscribe button. Tell everybody you know, friends and family. We're out here talking money. We're out here talking entrepreneurship. We're talking about the future of community building through the lens of entrepreneurship. All of that and more when you tune in to our show. Thank you so much. We will catch you on the next one. Peace out.